I'm in a late night. Yeah.
You're in a podcast, man.
How does it feel?
How does it feel? Have you been on a podcast before?
I can't say I have. Stop it. I don't know, but I don't have much to say. That's the problem with people.
What's going on in your life right now?
My life.
Everyone's got things going on. If you don't want to reveal names, details, you say old mate or whatever, or you could take creative license and represent it as a creative fiction of sorts.
All right.
Like, say if you've got like this crazy mother-in-law or whatever that's giving you shit, you could just call her a dragon and say there's a dragon in your life that's fucking with you and blowing fire on your shit.
Alrighty. I'm trying to think of some funny interactions that I've had in my life recently.
Yeah.
The one thing that comes to mind, this is a hot tip for any of you fair evaders out in Melbourne and you hate the jacks. What you can do is collect every Mikey that you find and get a big stack of them.
Whoa!
So what you do...
That's a big stack.
You touch on with one Mikey, and when they come up to you on the tram, you give them all of your expired Mikeys. So you just keep saying, oh, I don't know which one it is, but which Mikey, we just keep going. And you just keep going, and then you know which one that you actually touched on with because it's in a different pocket. Yeah. And they're getting really hyped up, like, oh, we're finally going to catch some guy. He's just stalling. And then you hit him with the Mikey, and they crack their shit.
So you just do all that just to waste their time
Yeah.
and be like, fuck you.
I carry them everywhere just in case there's one day that I get to do it. Because the 3 times that I've done it, it's made my week.
You take such pleasure from it.
Oh, it's on another level. I love fucking with them.
Yeah.
Like, the amount of times that I've gone off at them, just being that crackhead on the tram, just saying, do something productive with your life. Is your mother proud of you, what you do? Yeah. Just, you hit him with the hard cutting.
Do you have the same level of like hostility for like meter maids and like that those kind of jobs, or like
as in people who do like for the cars?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so, because I think you're an asshole if you choose not to pay for like your own car park. But like public transport in itself is public. That's the name, and public transport in Melbourne is owned by a Hong Kong company. So we don't actually get any profits of like what we see from public transport. Like it's just contracted out to another company.
Wouldn't a lot of car spaces fall under the same category, like probably owned by Hong Kong or some shit?
I mean, certainly there's big car park industries. Like that's one reason why they want a lot of people coming back to the city. It's because like a bunch of the blocks themselves have like just huge towers of car parks, and that's like a really big profit generator for people who drive into the city. So they're like, they lobby the government to be like, all right, especially during COVID, and they were like, we need people back in the country to stimulate business. It's mainly just to let these middle managers have their people they can see over, and then for companies like Wilson's Parking to make money off that.
Okay.
Talent, you know, like I think if I ever saw Necro on the street, I would lose my shit.
Yes,
but I mean, there's like the guys who just kind of go all day on the drums, like the upturned plastic buckets. I wouldn't say that's as talented as Necro, but I still respect their hustle, you know?
There's a good question there. Okay, so do you know of, or personally, by your own standards, would you have like a line of like a fence you'd say like, okay, if they cross this, then they shouldn't be welcome busking in Melbourne?
Well, I think that's what the council has tried to do, you know?
With Josh, yeah, they did.
And I don't think it's really up to anyone to make that decision, or certainly not me. It would be someone who's a lot better paid and more qualified. But, and also music taste is certainly subjective.
Your opinions have value,
Exactly.
Man. I'm curious about your personal opinion. Do you have a line of offense you'd be like, okay, you cross that, I don't reckon you should
I think if you're respectful and you're not like loud and obnoxious, as in you're not like the crackhead on the side of the road that just blasting Spotify and then singing along with it and expecting tips, maybe that might be a bit more of a nuisance, like public nuisance. But if you're the dude down in Melbourne Central playing the accordion or the violin, I think you definitely deserve to be able to do what you got to do.
So you think those people shouldn't be welcome anymore, like busking in the area?
I mean, not the
Spotify playing
Oh,
crackheads?
yeah, of course, but that's never going to go away. Like,
Okay.
I would say so.
What about Josh? Like he's banned because he spoke out against genital mutilation. You know,
Yeah.
he thinks that that's a bad idea.
Well, that sounds pretty bad to me.
Right. But in Melbourne, they are pushing this a lot on children and such. You know, through the transgender movement and that. And that is the reason why he was busked. He was banned because he disagreed with that. He's got a beautiful little baby and a beautiful missus, and he grew up here in Carlton, you know, and he doesn't want that in his community, so he's disrespecting that, speaking out against that, which, like rap in general, is always supposed to be, at least originally, was a protest form of music, you know, fight the power, you know, like
whatever his opinion is, and whatever anyone's opinion is, I really think you should be free to say what you want to say. You know, if he chooses to go out on the street and say X, Y, Z,
the reckoning, bro.
He should be allowed to, even if people disagree with him. I mean, certainly silencing someone's voice is not the way to go about it. You know.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, that's why I started the podcast in the first place, the reckoning, because I noticed, and I'm curious if you've noticed this in Melbourne, specifically, you've been here a lot, you have two forms of people, you know, you have those that are okay with people reckoning and believing whatever they want about anything.
Yeah.
And then you have those that take personal offense if you don't believe certain things.
Oh, certainly. I mean, I have friends who aren't the same political ideology as me, and we can disagree with that, you know? And I will engage with them in discussion, but I'm also certainly not going to say this person needs to be ostracized based on whatever they've done or said, you know? It's...
All right, so would you say, but you do agree that to be ostracized is good by your standards when it comes to Spotify crackheads and stuff?
I like your point. I like what you're doing here. That's what I was also saying is it's also not my decision, you know? Like I personally might not enjoy listening to music to my ears from Cursor, you know?
Me neither.
But it's also part of the city life. You got to just tune it out, you know? You also have the Jehovah's Witnesses coming at you. You know, it's the same thing. They probably think that everyone who's not them or who's not particularly cash money in their eyes, it's probably the same way I think about crackheads, or the same way most people think about crackheads. But
at least they're mild-mannered about it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying I hate crackheads. I certainly speak to a lot more of them and give a lot more money that I don't have to them.
Here at the weekend, with the socialists and the Marxists and such, you know.
Sure.
Why do you think that's accepted and we don't have any other flavor of massive protest on a regular basis every week at this spot?
I think protest culture in Melbourne, even when I was a 5-year-old, I was part of that. Like I was getting taken to whatever protest is going on, or that I would see protests going on in Flinders. It's kind of par for the course. It's kind of expected.
Okay.
All right. Well, been a pleasure.
So you're saying it's par for the course in Melbourne. It's
yeah,
just
I mean,
expected of the culture that we would have socialist Marxism every single
week. I think
week.
Melbourne is a melting pot, you know? Yeah. You have everyone from everywhere with every opinion, you know?
So you would assume that there would maybe be a different flavor of protests each week?
Well, you have the Nazi protests and you have the socialist protests. That's like two opposite ends of the spectrum.
I mean, you have all sorts of various small protests here and there, but the ones that get the most central location with the most police presence, the most people, the loudest voice, is always the socialists. Every week, would you agree, here at Melbourne Central?
I would say so, yeah. It's generally left-wing people that you see protesting. I mean, it's not too often that you see the Nazis come out to play, you know?
Would you say that's just simply because there's more of a population of them, more of them
and it's
willing
more
to
socially
protest,
acceptable, I would say.
more socially acceptable?
Yeah.
Yeah. and people just perhaps maybe if they just want something to do on the Sundays.
Exactly. They've got nothing better to do, so we may as well be angry. Oh, I'm not even going to pretend Melbourne people are certainly up themselves about that. We certainly are. Oh,
But do you reckon it's bullshit though?
I do.
Me too. This is the first time I actually experienced like racism in my life when I moved to Melbourne.
Why?
Yeah, well, before that, I come from Byron Bay. It's a country town, you know, and we didn't categorize people by that. It's not something like. If you hear people saying like racist shit, it's usually just to get a stir, get a reaction. There's not much general real racism.
yeah.
Where I'm from. When I came to Melbourne, I moved in with this guy, who was a socialist or whatever, and immediately just looked me up and down and said, well, because you're white, you've lived this kind of life. And you've never gone through this, and I'm like, brother, you don't even know me from a bar of soap. I've actually had a pretty tough life.
Yeah, I think everyone has their own struggles, and you can't diminish anyone else's struggles based on your struggles or anyone else's and compare them because...
And the moment you look at a person's skin color, and be like, like, okay, it's that color, therefore you've had this kind of life, that's racist.
Yeah,
You're
you
dumb.
certainly... I get into a lot of arguments. There's certainly a community that is certainly racist to Aboriginal people. Or Indigenous Australians. That's a big thing. And a lot of people just say, oh, they're all the same. You always see them drunk. And I always say, why do you see them drunk? Why do you see them in more disadvantaged places? And you have people come at you saying, it's just how they are. And then you say, even why are they how they are? You have to ask these questions. And generally, it's hundreds of years of abuse, you know?
Yeah,
Or
we all know it's
generational
'cause
shit going on.
The alcohol was introduced to them when they didn't have time to actually develop.
Oh, and
you know,
when
like,
you're
their bodies
struggling,
weren't
when
used to it,
you're
you know?
struggling and you're a low income,
Yeah.
and you have a broken family unit, not even it's you're going to turn to alcohol. It happens in so many places. I know a lot of people who've been alcoholics, and I can't even remember where I was going with that.
Well, Melbourne. you know,
Melbourne.
because
That's one way to sum it up.
Because, all right, I don't know about you, but whenever I turn on the fucking government, you know, talking on the radio or whatever, you know, I like to turn on sometimes order, right? They're always, 100% of the time, about 70, 80% of all their issues they're speaking about is Aboriginal this, Aboriginal that.
Yeah.
But
It's
I'm
the
not
boogeyman.
seeing any actual Aboriginal elders there saying anything about shit, right?
Oh, yeah,
So
half of
what
the people-
I've suggested, and I've tried to make a project going, I want to go to Arnhem Land and make like a radio tower for them to have their own radio station.
Yeah.
Speak about this stuff. Because I feel like a lot of the elders that I've spoken to where I'm from in Byron Bay, we've got a lot of Aboriginals there, right? A lot of them think that they're being misrepresented, you know? And I don't like to categorize people and all that shit, but like you speak to a lot of the elders and they have a different version of events. You know?
Yeah, you speak to aunties and uncles, and they'll come and say, they like, literally people act like it was hundreds of years ago, all of this Aboriginal persecution. It's like 3-4 generations. There's like people who are still alive that are suffering from the stolen generation, like having your literal children taken from you. Like a lot of people, white people, can never even relate to that.
We can't also continually play the victim game, you know, pit one race against the other.
That's
and
true.
Say,
This
know,
is
like,
this is the
this race
counterpoint
went through.
that a lot of
like,
people.
nobody, who's going to speak out for the pygmies? You know about the pygmies, right?
No, I'm not. Enlighten me.
Well, they were here before the Aboriginals, and guess what happened to them?
Fill me in.
Well,
No-
basically the same shit that white man did to the Aboriginals were done to the pygmies by the Aboriginals of that time. Point being, there's blood on all our hands, and there's no use trying to wrap up and kind of like who did what, who did shit thousands of years ago. We should probably go back to maybe a more of an old school Australia where You know, you come to Australia, then you're Australian. You know,
Yeah,
as far
I
as,
certainly think
like,
everyone, I certainly identify as an Australian. My dad is from
if
overseas.
you're willing to adopt a certain amount of the culture,
Yeah.
you know,
And I
you
think
can't come here and say it's okay to chop off the clitorises of young girls. You can't come here and say that that's fine and okay. You got to leave that culture back where you're from.
yeah, I mean,
know.
I can agree with that. And there's certainly like some things from a lot of places where it wouldn't be cash money in Australian society. And I think if you want to be an Australian, you have to adhere to some of those things. But certainly, I think Melbourne is pretty acceptable, and with other people's cultures. And like we have mosques, we've got temples, we've got everything for every religion, every walk of life, every gender, every sexual orientation. We have something for someone, you know.
But don't you feel that it's more just surface level acceptance where people are more tolerant, but really it's just a indifference to express anything counter to the norm because they're
I
avoidant of
certainly
conflict?
think there's a lot of people who are scared to voice their opinion.
Because
And
cultures
they
clash, they always have.
they
for thousands of
only
years, you know?
they only
That
go
hasn't
off
changed.
the certain talking points, because if they were to say anything else controversial, they might lose friends or whatever. But I think I have to. I'm not sure. There's certainly some things like what you're saying, the extremes like genital mutilation. That's not cash money, and I think that should be banned. Stuff like forced marriages in some cultures, that shit shouldn't be going on, you know? I think as soon as we get to a base level of humanity where everyone can be their own thing, you know, I don't really care. You know, do what you want as long as you're not harming anyone. I don't care. You can be whatever you want. You can do whatever you want and you can say whatever you want as long as you're not hurting anyone. I don't think you should be allowed to do that. I don't think you should be able to do a Sig Heil right in the front of Parliament without facing the repercussions. In the same way, you shouldn't be able to do a crucifix or any, like, there's just no place for it.
How
Like,
about a call for violence, like calling like a societal militia, like calling that to be started?
I mean, in like a call to arms.
Yeah.
I mean, where are people going to get guns in Australia? Like, there's
I mean,
certainly
like,
farmers with them.
like inciting violence.
Inciting
basically.
violence? I really don't think violence is the answer. Like, as much as
Like a people's militia.
I can see why that would need to be done in some places, like currently in Myanmar,
No, here in Melbourne.
in Melbourne. I don't think there's any call to arms that needs to be done. I think we have enough of a democratic, in theory, society where you can change things.
But, so that would be frowned upon. That wouldn't be accepted by you.
To go get a bunch of guns or pitchforks and we'll march into
people
Parliament.
calling for that on the streets. You know,
Well-
we're speaking about like what's you know accepted or not. What people.
I mean, I would say that's not
Expressing.
accepted to the average Australian. I'm going to agree with that.
But to you, like.
To me, I mean, my opinion, you know, is the same as anyone else's opinion. It's just as valued, you know. Even if I disagree with it, you know, I also respect their opinion. And if there's a Nazi that wants to do call to arms to seize the means of production or whatever, do whatever they want to do. However, whatever their ideology is, they're free to say it, but I might disagree with it. Does that mean I should just diminish left-wing people doing the same thing? I don't know.
Did you say your opinions are the same as everyone else?
Well, my opinions are as valued as anyone else's, just as dumb as the next guy, you know?
How could you say that your opinions are valued the same? Sorry, but that's just so confusing to me because everyone's like got a different value of different opinions.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. So if everyone has their own opinion, why is anyone's worth more than anyone else's? Because I say I'm a smart person and I deserve to have authority on this subject. I'm just as dumb as the next guy.
I agree when he says that violence isn't the answer, but if someone comes at you with violence, I think it is completely valid to just get back at them with 10 times the violence that they give you.
Really? So like vengeance? You're saying like if they've hurt you, you go back and hurt them back?
Yeah, personally, that's just a me thing. He's definitely a better person than me, but I'm not a good person for sure. So, like, I think it's valid if someone tries to, like, hurt me and then like, only in physical way, you know?
If
like,
someone tried to hurt
yeah,
you, for example, I would go punch them, you know? But if someone came up to me and said, you're a fucking whitey or whatever, or tried to be racist or classist to me, I just say, the fuck are you doing with your life, man? Like, don't you have anything better to do? Like, the people with a lot of anger in their life, I think they've got their own issues, you know?
the response that they want is for you to feel hurt and, like, not do anything.
Yeah, they want to try and... A lot of those
like-
people who are saying stuff like people that you meet on, like, the train or whatever, who are going off at you for what XYZ.
That's why you should go back at them and be like, you know, like, go fuck yourself. Like,
Oh,
what
you
you're
can
doing
certainly say
is
that,
wrong.
but if someone is willing to come at me with violence and anger, is it really the best idea to come back at them with the same type of shit?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I disagree. I don't think you should even, like, fight people. I don't even think you should have a punch
I
on.
think it's
Turning the other cheek, it's appreciated. Well done, respect.
we've just had different experiences. When in my experience, I have had grown elderly men just come at me who is like a teenage girl who looks like she doesn't even do any harm to you, you know, and they just come at you, and I just, in that kind of way, I just feel like it is definitely valid for me to just be like, fuck you, you know,
Oh, certainly.
and not turn the other cheek because
Well, I'm saying that from a piece of privilege anyway, because I'm a white male, you know. I'm already never going to get attacked for anything that I would personally find offensive, you know. But you are a minority woman, you know. You're the double entendre of,
it's a white male. I mean,
yeah. Certainly for you, what do you have to fight back at people, other than your big scary voice, like fuck you?
my gender.
You fight with your gender.
I mean, I have to fight for my gender.
How do you fight for your gender?
Like, just boys just looking down at females in terms of, like, every aspect, like, every way, you know?
You think a lot of boys look down on you as a female in every way? Yeah.
I think
I
there's
don't think it's every boy, but I think it's just, like, I don't know, like, there's only so much a man can agree with women with, you know? Like, even the best feminist men, they'll still have something that
they will never understand, you
agree
know.
with. Yeah, exactly.
But in the same
Not
way,
okay to disagree with women.
Well, I definitely don't know about that.
Sorry, what was that? I didn't catch it.
I said I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't think I don't think men should agree with them on every single thing. Cause, like, yeah, like, I'm sure, like, you can't relate with women, and it's not your fault.
certainly, me and you, have you ever felt unsafe when you're walking alone by yourself, like coming at night, coming off a train or something? Do you feel scared? Ever?
I have, yes. Are you trying to say like because I'm white I shouldn't feel scared?
No, as a man.
Because I'm a man, then I
Yeah.
should feel privileged. Go no, because I know people close to me that have been murdered and raped that were men. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been bashed many
I
times.
realized that men actually experience more violence on the streets than women.
Oh, statistically, yes.
Yeah.
You know,
So
but
yeah,
at
I
least
don't
we
have
have
any illusions
something.
of safety. No,
Yeah,
no.
I can understand that, but at least we have something to fight back against another man.
Yeah, like,
But
you don't
if
have
me,
Women can fight, man. I've known many a strong women.
oh,
in my life
I
that
can
know how to
certainly
fight.
agree with you. But your average woman, if I tried to get in a fight with her, even though I am 10 times weaker, she bench presses shit. I could probably overpower her just as a man. That's a fact.
Yeah, sure. I would say that, yeah, like a lot of the women that I know have been abused. Yeah, of course. And I would say that comes down to parents teaching their children, if they are a woman, how to be stronger as a woman and how to fight as a woman, because women and men fight differently.
Yeah.
Right? But you can seriously be just as strong as any man out there with the right amount of training and tactics.
Or the right things in your
brain
pocket.
is a lot more of a effective weapon than any muscles or brawn.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's true.
It's just
If you
sad
can get
that-
out of the situation with your words,
well,
that's
it's sad
always
that
going to be better.
People, like parents and like men have to and other women have to warn other women on how to act so we don't get, harassed or something. Like, I think we should just start with educating, like parenting boys on not, harassing women and learning what's wrong and what's right. Like, I
We
think
have to educate girls about not harassing boys, about what's right in the
I
world.
agree. Yeah, but
I just find it annoying that it's always framed that way, like boys need to be educated, but girls don't.
yeah,
I
but
think everyone needs a healthy dose of wake the fuck up and look at yourself, in the mirror. But I appreciate what you're saying, but I think I disagree with you, and it's not going to be controversial. And I'm happy to debate with you about this right now.
What, you disagree that girls shouldn't be taught how not to mistreat men?
That should be taught, but also the same way men should be taught not to
What were you disagreeing with?
pressure women.
What were you disagreeing with then? Because that was my point.
That women are inherently like the same as men in how threatened they can be. Not that
With how threatening they can be.
yeah, like walking home from the train station at the end of the day. Do you?
I didn't say that women can be inherently more threatening than men. No.
All right. What are you saying then?
I was saying that a woman in general can, with the right amount of training and smarts, be just as effective as a man in a fight, in some kind of conflict on the street.
Yeah, certainly.
but realistically, how many of these women are actually how many are there compared to all these women? Like, there's a higher percentage of women that are not like that, though, like in this world.
Like, how many men have been in a fight? I'd say like 80% of men. I'm just guessing.
I don't know, man. I think it's very relative. Like, I had a lot of violence growing up, so I just assumed that. But I've spoken to a lot of men that
Never been beaten?
never been in a fight once in their whole
Never
life.
had a knife pulled on them, nothing?
No. And
Well, maybe that's just experiences.
yeah, it's relative to your environment. So yeah, we all kind of because maybe you live in and have lived in Melbourne for so long, you categorize things and frame things more in race and gender and sex.
I think it is certainly, I like what you're saying. It's certainly
environment.
race and that type of stuff and gender and all of those social constructs and everything, they are a huge importance in Melbourne. Like,
Or just even thinking that race or gender is a
that
social
even matters,
construct.
that even
that it is a construction of society. When
that is a very
when-
Melbourne thing to say.
when
Yeah.
babies are born genetically, scientifically, provably this race or this gender.
Yeah.
There's evidence for it. It's not a construction fantasy of society. There is societal impressions or framings of those scientific facts.
Yeah.
But the scientific facts aren't created by society.
True. Alrighty.
This would be a good question to ask you particularly.
All right.
This is a segment that I'm going to be calling "Is This Racist?" Okay.
All right.
All right. There is an announcer at Flinders Street train station that her English is so broken that you can't really comprehend what she's saying, what trains are leaving and when for the stations, right? So the question is it racist to say that for Flinders Street Station, one of our most central stations in Melbourne, we need somebody that can speak fluent and understandable English, regardless of race, speech impediment, disability, this or that, because it's a requirement of the job to have an eligible voice?
I would say that I wouldn't even put race or anything like that in the discussion.
So it's not racist to you to say?
No, I think you should hire someone who's an eloquent speaker, like a voice actor, or whatever. But a lot of those control room jobs, they're like people who've been working for Metro Trains for a while. And I haven't heard the specific person you're talking about, so I can't comment on that.
Do you take issue with that? Would you say like they need to hire somebody that can speak like eligible English? Like fire this person because their English isn't good enough and hire a person that can speak English better?
It's a very hard question, you know? Like, if I have a friend who has a stutter, and
A girl with a stutter,
and
yeah.
as that's why I brought it up, because you said you do too. Would I feel confident with him being the announcer for Metro Trains, or the question is, would he feel confident being the announcer for Metro Trains? Maybe, but I don't think it matters what race he is. It's just what the bottom line is: can you speak an acceptable amount of English? Can you meet those requirements for the job? And if you can't meet those requirements, well, then you don't get the job. I don't think it matters anything other than that.
Yeah, so this person shouldn't have that job. We should have another person that can speak proper
Well, I haven't heard the exact person, but if you say it's as bad as you say it is,
By your own standards, if you couldn't understand her, you'd be like, well, we need someone that can be
Well,
understandable, right?
I've heard some of the microphones and the speakers. They're
It's
so
not a
bad.
speaker thing. This was an accent thing. This
Okay.
was somebody that's clearly very broken English.
Okay, well, I don't want to say they get fired because then that would be someone out without a job. But
I mean, like, from that job particularly. I mean, that doesn't mean that they need to have no job in Metro.
true. Well,
Just removed from that job.
maybe. Sure, I can see what you're saying.
So there you go. You have it, ladies and gentlemen, from somebody that probably identifies more as the left-leaning and cares about...
I like to think.
We should have somebody that speaks English at our train stations. Straight up.
Yeah. I mean, I think English is. I mean, I know English is the national language. You know, so I think no matter what job, if you're going to be on a microphone, you should be able to be legible or illegible, rather.
Legible.
Legible. I had it right the first time.
You did. You got it.
But yeah, I wouldn't even think about if it was this person is wherever they're from, therefore they should lose their job.
All
you
right,
know.
But being in Melbourne for so long, would you say that you know people or groups of friends that would take great offense for you saying that and consider that racist?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't. Yeah, I definitely know people who are so politically correct to the detriment of their own, like, just how intelligent they look, you know? Because I think intelligent people, they are very objective. And I think if you choose one way on anything, and you don't consider any other sources or any other schools of thought, I think that's a problem.
That ring that you have there, I'm very curious about it because that's on what's referred to as your heart line, ladies and gentlemen. You know, this finger on your left-hand side has a direct connection to your heart. Right?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I say woo-foo because it's like ethereal knowledge, but if you want to get scientific about it, there's, you know, nerves and like electricity pathways.
I have a mother who's a psychic and she believes in that stuff, so I can understand where you're coming from. There's no significance of where I put this ring, if that's what your question was.
I know, but perhaps maybe a subconscious significance.
Because
I think intuitively we all know, at least in our subconscious, that our body, our left is the input, our right is the output, and this our heart line.
Even hundreds of years ago, you don't shake hand with, I don't remember a specific hand because you wipe with that one. You know, there's very specific which one you should be using.
Then there's like, you know, our energy body, like part of like how human beings function. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious. This ring, which is on your heart line, what's its deal?
So it's a gift from my lovely girlfriend over there. She has the same one.
Really?
So we have matching rings.
Is it on her heart line as well?
Kitty!
Kitty.
Kitty!
No!
Which finger is it on?
Yes. Oh, it's the...
It's the same one.
Yeah, but on the right-hand side.
Well, she's left-handed.
Okay. So, ethereally speaking, that ring that you gave him is on your output. So like your right side is your output. That's how you put like energy out. And his is on his left-hand side, on his middle finger, which is the heart line, which goes directly to his heart. Yeah. So there's
Putting it out so you can take it.
I'm
I don't
stealing
know
her
what's going on.
energy.
I'm just observing what's
I always wear it on my right.
I always wear it on this one. It doesn't fit on my other finger, so it has to go on this one.
Yeah. It's a Viking protection sigil, I think.
It's a Viking protection sigil. That's fucking cool
I
as
think
shit.
so. I'm not sure if it's true.
Yeah, that looks very Viking to me.
Yeah.
I'm Nordic Viking on my father's side, so yeah. Vikings are cool.
Alrighty. It's been a great discussion here.